Hi and welcome back, and in this final episode of me rebuilding my Mojo 2, I've always wanted to build and design from scratch a custom spoiler. So in this episode, we're going to find out if I can do it. Welcome back to Sam's Garage.
Swagger down the street with your red lips and funky beat. You better hold your head up to the sky. I'm gonna roll with you till the day I die.
Now, this is the extra episode that I've kind of talked about with this particular car. Now, what I wanted to do, if you go back to the first episode where I had the grey car, when it was grey, and I was taking it apart, you probably noticed that it had a splitter on the front and a wing on the back, which aren't on the car. The reason why they're not back on the car is I wanted to do something a little bit different, making the car personal and unique. Oh, by the way, there's probably going to be a few people out there that aren't going to like what I'm going to make, but there's going to be a new splitter for the front, and there's going to be a new wing for the back. Now, I think they're called GT wings. So these cars going around tracks, they have a huge spoiler off the back of the car. You'll see on my car when it was grey, as much as it was strong enough and it did the job, it was causing spider cracks and it wasn't really the right way of mounting them. So what I thought I would do is I would do it properly. I would make up my own design that goes off the chassis. So we're gonna have to do a bit of welding work to the back of the chassis and then put this ridiculously big spoiler on the back just to see how it looks. And I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I hope you do too. If you don't like it, you can comment, but please remember to subscribe and share and like it. And thank you so much to everyone for your support. It's been absolutely amazing. And I promise you this will be the last bit we're doing on this car for the time being, because we need to move on to another car. Anyway, let's crack on. Okay, so let's get a few things clear first of all. I am not an aerodynamic specialist, but obviously there's some basic principles that you can work on. So for instance, if you stick your hand out of a window when you're going along in a car and you sort of move it, you can feel the pressure pushing your hands down depending on the angle you're doing it at. So I've just taken the basic principles. I also don't have a huge budget for doing something like this. So if you are going to design a wing for the back of the car, aerodynamics is so complicated. However, the base principle is a little bit like an aeroplane's wing, except it's upside down. So what you're trying to do is create low pressure under the wing, and high pressure above the wing, so it's pushing down. Basically what we've got here is a single flat piece of aluminium, and I've measured it to be the full width of the car. So what we've got here is the original wing on the back of the car. I took a photo and then I just kind of sketched over it, and it's kind of the easiest way to get started. So you can see what I've done is I've done two uprights here, and then I've done a rough sort of brace across it, because obviously it needs to be triangulated so the wing doesn't move from side to side, so it needs to be rigid. So I started off with that, and then basically what I ended up with was this kind of shape. So this is just a sketch of the car. And then because I want to bolt to the back of the chassis, I've had to work out how the framework is going to come round. Now, I haven't actually quite got that completely sorted yet. I'm going to make a wooden plyboard example of it because it's nice and easy to cut with, and I don't want to be cutting loads of aluminium. So I'm going to make one out of wood first, get the dimensions right, and then I will redraw that as an engineering drawing and send it off to the laser cutters. But we've got this big wing that's going to sit at the back, and it's the full width of the car. So we're gonna have 1560 millimeter, which is the width of the back of the car, 1560 millimeters wide, and then we're gonna fold it, and we decided to fold it at about 25 degrees. Now, I'm sure there's people who are far smarter than me watching this going, no, you only need 5 degrees or 10 degrees, or you should just give up on this idea altogether. But we're gonna give it a go and see how it comes out. And then here, just so I could see what it would actually look like, is an actual size end plate. So this shape here is the actual size of the end piece that we're gonna have made. So we went and saw our friends at Accujet, who are absolutely amazing. Their details are in the description below, but I would highly recommend them if you need help with something like this. Dan? Hey.
Hi Sam, nice to see you.
How's it going, buddy?
Yeah, all good.
Thank you so much for doing this. I'm so blown away.
Yeah, not a problem. Just slide this one across to you.
Nice.
So,
this is amazing.
yeah. So that is 3mm5251 aluminium. It's been cut and folded in-house here, alongside your 5mm parts in this bag. Throw it straight from the material supplier to our machine, straight out to you again.
can you grab me one of the end pieces? Because obviously I want to be able to show how this is going to look. One of the small ones there.
One of them ones.
So these are basically going to go on like that.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have some tabs welded underneath, and that is basically what it's going to look like as the end of the splitter. Yeah, I really can't wait.
Yeah.
Look at those.
Yes. Yeah. They look so cool. And
That is going to be...
on the completed project, I'm sure it's going to look fantastic.
Oh, I can't wait. When you take this design, I've made a few little modifications to it, but that is what was laser cut. You can see it's quite big, but it's not stupidly big. It is still basically a small car. And this, powder coated, is our finished piece. This one hasn't got the end plates on it, obviously, because it's sort of mid being assembled, but you can see here that we've had the tabs welded on. So these tabs hold the end plates on, and these tabs in the middle are for the braces that are going to hold it off the chassis, so we're going to bolt it to the chassis. But this has come out really, really well. There's a couple of little things that I didn't really sort of consider particularly well. We did sand down where the welding was. Obviously, it's, you know, slightly warped the aluminium, and when we were grinding it down and getting it ready for powder coating, I don't think I went quite deep enough. There's still a tiny little lump there, but we're not going to worry about it. This is my first go at it, and this is the thing about playing with these cars yourself. You don't know what's going to happen. You try new ideas, but I think this is going to come out really, really well, and it's a nice finish. But if you want to see what the wing looks like with the plates on, still in its raw aluminium look, this is my rear wing. And as you can see, it's been bent to 25 degrees all the way along down the middle, which also gives it strength as well. So it'll be harder for it to fold and bend. And then we have these huge end plates on it, which I had a friend come by the other day while I was working on the car, and he didn't actually know I was doing this section, and I was going to be building this sort of like crude body kit for the car. And he looked at it and he said, that looks absolutely ridiculous. I think it's going to be a little bit Marmite. You know, some people are going to love it. Some people are going to hate it. But you know what? You can never tell until it's actually on the car and in place. So we need to get this powder coated. Right, so if we're going to put this spoiler on the back of the car, and this isn't something I've done before, so I'm kind of making this up as I go along. This is the rear chassis rail on the car, and there's another one tucked up behind the bodywork that you can't see there, but I can get to pretty easily. So what we're going to do is going to take two of these. I've still got to drill some holes in them, but we've got to give them a clean up. So we're going to get two of these, and we're going to weld them like that to the car. That's the first one done. I know that there's going to be a little bit of manipulation, because basically between being like a millimetre out here, maybe a millimetre out in the hole, where it gets welded to the chassis, and then the rails coming up and holding the spoiler on the back, it's probably not going to be perfect, but I'm going to make adjustable brackets on the top so that we can put a spirit level on the top of it and get the wing sitting perfectly flat. Just got to hope the car's perfectly flat. Those are good to go on. So we need to start grinding that paint off. Then we can weld it on. Right, so I haven't got my welding mask on. I'm just going to be tacking it in place. So I'll just close my eyes while I do that, just get it in the right place, and then get a couple of tack welds in it. Right. We've got we've got two strong rails on here. So now they just need painting, and then we can start working on the back bit. And when I say the back bit, I mean like the braces for the spoiler, if you didn't work that out. Let's just get it to where we want it to be, and let's get it all painted, stop any surface rust. Go over the welds. Right, so you find me sitting at the back of the car, holding these horrible pieces of cardboard, but I'm gonna explain why. There is method to this madness. Now basically a few weeks ago, when I was kind of mid-build, I had already started thinking about how I was going to do the wing on the back of the car. Now the bits have come back powder coated for the wing, but we still haven't built the braces. So what I decided to do was, and at the time I only had some old boxes lying around, was I cut up some boxes and basically stuck them together to give me this sort of rough shape. So you can see that. Now, this is the important bit here. This is the bit that goes under the back of the car because it's got a very odd shape to it, and then allows me to bolt to the back of the chassis. So I've got my marker pen around here somewhere, and we are going to just mark where our bolt holes are, and this slides under the back like that. So what I've done is I've basically marked on here where those holes are going to go. So this is basically the starting point for how we're going to build the frame. Now what we're going to do is, or the rails that are going to hold the wing on. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this stencil, which is crude as it may be, we're then going to make it out of 5mm ply. And we're going to extend the piece at the top so that we can put it roughly in place and then sort of clamp the wing. We only have one board at the moment, so I'm going to try and be as sparing with this as possible. This is very much one of those situations where it's important to measure twice and cut once, because I don't have unlimited materials and I want to make sure I try and get it right as best I can. Okay, so you can probably start to see how this is going to come together. So still very, very crude. Obviously, I'm just making out a ply board to kind of get the shape. I can see there's bits where I can go closer into the body and other bits where I need to go out. So what I then need to do is get these right and then mark them, and then I'll go home and I'll do all my drawings from these with the slight change. Now, bearing in mind that the back of the car is not symmetrical. There's a gap here on this side where you can see the carburetors, and there's not on this side. So we need to make an allowance for this ridge here on both of them. So the left-hand one is the one we're going to design from, and the right-hand one will just be a copy of that. Anyway, better crack on. So now we have to take our template, which is a little on the crude side, turn it into a drawing, and we get one of these made. This is 5mm aluminium. It's nice and strong, but as I said, this is a prototype, so I don't know how well this is going to work. This bit was particularly fiddly because I was trying to make allowances for the welds and I had to file little bits off just to make sure it sat in correctly, but we got there in the end. Okay, so it's in, and I think it looks pretty good. I think it is very much subject to taste. You know what, I actually even like it with the silver at the back with the black. I quite like the contrast. Here's one of the issues. Well, that's not good, is it? I got an idea. Right, I was already aware that this was going to be a problem because obviously it's a square shape, there's no triangulation, so it was going to be moving from side to side, but fortunately, we got a plan. So, these are rose joints, and they're great little things. So this has got an M6 in the end of it, and then here, you've got a ball in there with an M6 hole through it, or a 6.5mm hole through it, and that is what we're going to use, a few of these, for bracing the back end. So, I'll show you up close in a minute. This was kind of guesswork. What I had to try and do was make the points that I was bracing across as high and as low as possible to make sure that we were triangulating as much as we possibly could. Otherwise, we were going to get flex either at the top or the bottom. Okay, so it still needs a bit of work because it needs adjustment, but at the moment, there's probably, at the top here, probably about 1 centimetre's worth of movement. So I'm hoping the next one's going to make it more rigid, but what we can also do is we can also put some cross members, and I was actually looking at putting, not cross member, sorry, a horizontal member to go from here to here and bolt straight through. So that would actually stop it flexing off the back of the chassis. So we're gonna see if this works first and see how rigid it makes it. And then, yeah, if I do it from down here, there's a lot more movement, but I can also feel, yeah, this joint here isn't solid enough yet. So just gonna have to make that a little bit tighter. But yeah, we're going in the right direction, so can't complain. It was just a case of getting the rose joints in the right position, getting the rods the right length, and then making sure there was as little play as possible. It's one of those things that when you're creating something that's a one-off, there is a lot of playing with it and adjusting it, but ultimately you can feel it getting tighter and tighter as you go along. Right, so we've got the rods wound in as far as they will go. which makes me think that they're too long. So basically at this point, you can still see without too much pressure. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's like the actual whole thing, I think I can, yeah, I'm pulling my weight, I can pull the car back with it. So that's not the problem, but these rods are wound onto the rose joints are wound onto the rods as far as they will go, and they're still playing it. So I think each rod needs maybe 5 mil off. What do you think? I quite like it. I think it looks pretty good. Obviously we have to do the 13 stone idiot test. Okay, so I can move the whole car with it. There isn't as much as a squeak out of it. I'm still in two minds about whether or not I'm going to powder coat these, but they definitely need to be at least shot blasted. So, but I think it looks pretty sweet. So, yeah, we need to take it outside and fit the front one. Right, we're over at the other garage, and just before we turn the car around, because I need to do the splitter on the front of this, I just wanted to get a better shot because I can get the camera further back in here. It's a wider garage, it's brighter, and I just wanted to have a quick look at this. Now, I know that there's going to be people out there that don't like it, it's not their taste, it's not their style. This is just fun for me. As long as it's safe and it's strong, you know, as I said, I did this in the other garage, but I can literally move the whole car by the braces, and you know, I'm very, very happy there is not an ounce of movement. Incredibly, incredibly strong, bolted on correctly, all the brackets welded. So I'm very, very happy that this is safe. But after that, it's a taste thing. I think it looks mad, and that's what cars are for me. They've got to be unique. Okay, so I did have another design for the front. I did a splitter that was a similar style to the back. Unfortunately, when I put it on the car, it was just too big. It just threw off the balance of the styling of the car. So what I've done is, as a backup plan, I took the original splitter that was on the front of the car, I had it powder coated so it matched the rest of the car, and I've got it here now. So this is the previous one, which is still pretty big and looks pretty wild, but actually it is smaller, and in comparison to the back, it's I'm going to use the word very carefully, but a little bit more subtle. I mean, it's subtle like a sledgehammer, but it is more subtle than what we're doing at the back of the car. And we do need the downforce at the back, because as much as I have done that for the aesthetics, it is going to create a lot of downforce. And the problem is if you create too much downforce at the back and you don't have any at the front, and then you're going to start getting very light steering because the front's trying to come up. So we need this at the front, pushing down as well. So we need to get this on the car. And that's it. That's the last part of the puzzle going on the car right now. I can't wait to see it finished. Right, I'm having to be quite conservative because this camera's about to die now. So I didn't record. You know what it looks like when I'm drilling holes in bits of metal. You don't need footage of that. But here we go. This is the end piece on the splitter at the front. I actually really like the shape of it. I think elongating these actually makes a big difference. So I'm going to stick with the new ones. The old ones are going to go on the shelf somewhere, and we're going to have to wrap it up. Have to come back in the morning. Right, so this is the vision I had right at the beginning. You know, I knew that I wanted to change the color. I knew I wanted to do all the little bits and pieces that we've been talking about over the videos, but I also wanted to do the splitter, make some tweaks to it, build this ridiculous wing for the back of it, and now it looks exactly as I wanted, and I'm just thrilled. So I really, really hope you've enjoyed these videos. We're quickly going to turn it around just so you can see the back end properly, but it's really, really come together. What do you think? I think that's a pretty good look. The spoiler, the frame, the braces, it's all come out exactly as I wanted it to. And I've been out and there's been people taking pictures of it, which has been, you know, when you start doing a channel like this and you're not getting many views and you're putting so many hours in, it can be a little bit sort of like disappointing sometimes, but when you take it out on the road and people stop and they ask you questions, or they want to take pictures of it, or they want to sit in it, it just makes the whole thing worthwhile. Thank you to everyone who has watched this build from start to finish. I am so over the moon it's got to this point, and I'm so grateful for all the positivity that people have shown me along the way. And thank you very, very much. I'm really excited to get on to the next car. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Yeah, it's been really good. I've thoroughly enjoyed the build. It's been really, really good fun. The car looks better than I could have ever hoped for. But I am glad it's over at the same time, because I want to drive it. I love driving this car. The wet weather's come in, and you know, I'm taking every dry day I can to take it out and have fun in it, which is what I built it for anyway. That's my other Mojo too. That's the fast one.